All right, so this is my experimental design project, and I studied the effects of music tempo on mung bean plants. And let me just put this in present. Okay, so my abstract is that plants respond differently in their growth patterns when they are exposed to different type of music. And basically in this experiment, I had two groups of mung beans that were exposed to different tempo ranges. One was exposed to 60 to 80 BPM music, while the other one was 100 to 120. And in this entire experiment, I only had a very small visible difference between their two growth patterns. And I attributed this to the fact that the conditions for my plants were not the most ideal. And overall, I just need to fix my method before I can really make a conclusion based on my data. But yeah. So the introduction and background knowledge is that most people know plants need 5 essential things to grow, like sunlight, water, air, nutrients, and a suitable environment, like temperature and oxygen, things like that. So other things can also affect a plant's growth, such as music or the noise they're exposed to. So yeah, in this research study here in 2016, they found that plants responded to people using mantras and using Vedic chanting. And so I hypothesized that plants that were exposed to higher tempos of music would grow faster because in other research studies, they actually tended to prefer jazz music over classical pieces. So the methods that I used 3 steps. First, I germinated the plants, and each plant was in an individual pot. So each group was an individual pot, sorry. But I had 5 seeds in each pot, and there were 3 pots total. So I had group 1, group 2, and the control group, and I let them have 5 days to germinate. So I didn't gather any data until the 5th day. Then when I started gathering metrics, I did it on days 5, 6, 7, 9, and 12, 14, 15, and 16. And each plant was exposed to their corresponding music group, and I exposed them to music at least 8 hours a day. So I just put the little apple earbud 1 centimeter in the soil, and that was how I got the groups to be exposed to different music without moving them to a different environment, because I had them on the same window seal. I wanted all their other conditions to be controlled as much as possible. So I found a way to expose them to different tempos of music based on their through putting it in the soil. So, and I analyze this data by putting it in tables and graphs, which I'll show you in the next part of my slide. And here's some pictures of the experimental process. So right here, that's group 1, the one that's exposed to 60 to 80 BPM music. And this is group 2, one exposed to 100 to 120 BPM. Then this is my control group, which you can see on day 16, there's literally only 1 plant in the control group, so I could not use that as my one. But I still gathered data for groups 1 and 2. So yeah, my experiment was kind of a failure, but my results were that overall there was only a slight difference in the growth of group 1 and 2. So plants exposed to 60 to 80 BPM music were between 27 to 29 centimeters on day 16, and the other group had 27 to 28.5 centimeters on day 16, which is a super big difference apparently. But I mean, I had like I said before, I couldn't gather any data on the control group because only 1 plant sprouted in there. And this is the graph of all the measures. So each individual dot, each individual line here is a plant, and the group 1 plants are in blue and the group 2 plants are in red. So you can see that there's a little bit of difference in the growth curve, but I don't really have enough evidence to prove that like it's based on the music that I expose them to and not like the actual conditions. Because in conclusion, I just need to fix my experiment because my plants, first of all, a mung plant is supposed to live much longer than 16 days and be much larger than what they did in my pot. So I should have done some more research into how I should have done the experiment because I did want to have a big enough sample size, but because like I didn't have enough resources, I didn't have like, big pots. And the fact that I didn't figure that out before I even started it was kind of a problem. So I think that my plants just overcrowded each other, and so that's why they died after 16 days. And also, I wasn't very consistent with like some of them. Like some days I literally forget to water it, but like I basically did the same thing for every plant. So if I forgot to water one plant, like I'm pretty sure I didn't water any of the others too. So they kind of like had still controlled, but not really. But it didn't come out to be like my actual experiment plan. So what I'd do in the future is that I would gather data for 4 weeks. I would definitely put them in larger pots for each individual plant. And I would definitely make sure that the control group grows. And I would definitely do some more scientific reasoning behind choosing a method because I just kind of like just made this experiment, but there's no like exact like scientific reason why I did this. But in the future, I would definitely do it differently. And these are my references. And I would just like to thank you guys for all your help in this class. And I hope that you have a great Christmas break. All right. Stop sharing.